Autumn has arrived to the small town of Evansville, Georgia. It was only a week until Halloween, and the whole town has decorated for Halloween. All the children of town were looking forward to Halloween with dressing up, asking for candy. All of the city didn't only just celebrate Halloween. Evansville has its own little tradition that dates back to the year 1805. In 1805, a local woman named Maggie Miller was accused of being a witch who practiced witchcraft in her cabin in the Phillips Woods outside of town. She was determined to return for revenge. Since then, the residents who celebrated by having a witch who would play the role as Maggie Miller chased the children around the town in town for fun. But not everyone in town didn't believe in the legend. Some believed it was a fabrication to liven up the Halloween a bit more, and two of those who didn't believe in the legend were Leo and his best friend Daniel. Halloween is almost here again. Yeah, do you have any plans for that day? No, said Daniel. I don't have any plans since we get to high school we are too old for trick or treating. That's true, but it was fun. Yes, it was really fun, but no parties to get this year. Daniel and Leo were at Daniel's house watching on TV while they were talking about what they were going to do for Halloween. Your younger brother is going to trick or treating with your mom, asked Leo. Yes, he will, and he has been looking forward to it. Maybe we should do something different this year. What would that be then? Leo fell silent for a moment and came up with one thing. How about we throw a party ourselves? It would be fun, but my mom told me not to have party here. That's sad to hear, said Leo. Maybe we can have it at your place, said Daniel. No, we can't because my parents said that same thing about your mom. Daniel Daniel said, if we can't have a party, what are we going to do? No idea, but I have to go home. My mom asked me to look after my sister. I will see you at school tomorrow. It will do. They gave each other a high five, and Leo drove home in his car, spent the rest of the evening looking after his younger sister. He tried to think of something that he and Daniel could do for Halloween, but he couldn't think of anything. The next day at school, Daniel was waiting for Leo to show up and went to his locker. Have you come up with something for due to Halloween? No, I haven't come up with anything yet. I will. You have time since Halloween is just in a week. Yeah, what are you going to do today? I have a school assignment about local history. Have you chosen any particular part? I haven't chosen anything yet. Leo was held in his locker and looked for some books. You can do an assignment about Maggie Miller. You mean the witch of Evansville? Yes, you can write about her since she's a local history. You're right. I can write about her. Maybe you can help me out with that one. Sure. Can we do that in the library after school? Sounds like a good idea. Both went to their classes, and Daniel's confident they will find some information about Maggie in the Miller in the library. After school was over, they took Leo's card and went to the library. They looked through the out. They looked for any information they could find about Maggie and her trial. Although everyone already knew about her since she is part of local history, it wouldn't be difficult. No, but we will see what if we can find in old books and newspapers. Both friends started reading through some local history books, newspapers. After 2 hours of reading, I have taken notes, but what we found is some we found is some that we already knew about her. Maybe we can read from her court records. It would be a try. Worth a try. Daniel Ward went and asked the librarian if those records from the trial. She replied they were. She would go get them. After a while, she came back. She gave them a book that contained the content about Maggie's trial. This could be some good information. You could be right about that one. Both began to read for that minutes. Maggie Miller, you have been accused of practicing witchcraft and begin responsible for seeking out the cattle. What is your response to these allegations? I'm innocent, but I have done some natural herbs, but no witchcraft. I had nothing to do with the cattle that got sick. Your answer is noted on the record, but despite all the evidence and the witnesses that come forward, I have no choice but give you the sentence. Maggie Miller, I found you guilty of witchcraft and sentenced you to death by hanging. But I'm innocent. I haven't done anything. They continue to read the minutes of Maggie's hanging. I will take revenge on anyone who enters in the forest and make them disappear as a punishment who judged me to be a witch. It was a terrible punishment for her, said Daniel. It really was, but at the same time, I don't believe she is not to be blamed of everyone who is disappearing in the woods since then. I don't believe so either, but I can use some of this information by assignment. After they read on, Daniel took some more notes until it's time to go home. Leo drove Daniel home, who thanked them for his help. A couple of days later, Leo was standing outside Daniel's last lesson to have to hear how his assignment went. So, how did your school assignment go? I got an A for my assignment, and thanks for your help. That's great. It's great you passed. Let's go celebrate. Of course, sounds like a good idea. They went to Lego's car and drove to the cafe in town, and both chose a milkshake to celebrate. Now we have no school offered until after Halloween. It's a really nice and be able to sleep longer and play games. We certainly can. Since we can't have a party on Halloween or none of our friends will have a party, what should we do? Daniel sat quiet for a while and thought an idea. I can't think of anything. Me neither. Although there's one thing we might be able to do. What would that be? Said Daniel. We could drive out to Philip's Woods at midnight on Halloween to prove to everyone that the ghost of Everville's witch doesn't exist. Daniel looked at his best friend with wide eyes. Both he and Leo have heard legend of people who went in the forest never being found again, despite all the searching for them. Are you sure that's a good idea? Don't tell me you believe in that legend. No, I don't believe the legend. But I was just thinking, if our parents find out about what we're up to, they will be put us on curfew for weeks or months. Yeah, but we won't tell them that. We are where we're going. But at the same time, despite that, people have disappeared in the forest. People probably just left the town without saying anywhere they were going. It might be possible, but there have been also that there are some dangerous animals in the forest, like wolves, bears. It's not entirely safe that in the middle of the night. I know about that, Daniel. But how would you go to see the witch stone marker where she was hanged and explore the area and lived at the woods at 1 a.m.? Daniel sat quiet thinking about what Leo just suggested, and he thought it might work. Okay, as long as don't get by taken by the animals or our parents find out the truth, I'm fine with it. Good. We will bring video cameras and flashlights. Why should we bring video cameras? That's so we can record what we do and can prove that that wish doesn't exist and that the fortune teller or the story is just a legend. Okay, I will bring my video camera, said Daniel. Both agreed and made a plan to meet at Daniel's house on Halloween at 11:30 p.m. Since the forest is a bit outside of town, the rest of the time went on. Leo got ready to prove once and for all that the ghost didn't exist. But at the same time, Daniel was worried and wanted to change his mind, but he couldn't since he had made a promise to his best friend to come with him. Then Halloween came and all the kids in town were so excited. Daniel's mom told him not to have a party while she was out. Don't worry, Mom. Me and Leo will be out tonight. As long as you don't come up with do something crazy. I promise, Mom, we won't. After Leo's mom left the house, Daniel immediately called Leo, who was excited, and told him that he will be there at 11:30 p.m. as planned. The rest of the day, Daniel was so nervous, but at 11:30 p.m., Leo was waiting outside, and as soon as Daniel got in the car, it drove out of town to Philip's Forest. Daniel sat nervously in the car, hoped it wouldn't find anything in the forest or that Leo would change his mind instead. But unfortunately, it didn't happen out that way. Before long, Daniel saw the forest despite the dark evening, and Leo parked the car in a small parking lot that was next to the forest. Then we have arrived to the witch forest. Philip Forest also had an unofficial name given by the locals of the town because Maggie Miller lived in the forest in her cabin. Since then, many have visited the place where the cabins once stood, but now there's only foundational remains and a sign that tells the story. Daniel looked into the forest in the dark and felt so worried and just wanted to turn around, but he didn't want to let his friend down, so they went into the forest. After a couple of minutes, they found a stone marker. Here we have the witch grave and the and show the stone marker with his flashlight and immediately start filming. Daniel looked around and listened for sound, but it was not, if this was everything was quiet. Still, in the forest, not even an owl was hooting. Where should we go now, Leo? We should by starting go to the foundation of Maggie's cabin, walking around there. Is it far there? Not that far, only like 5 minutes walk from there. Let's go there and really get this done. Okay, then we go and have your camera on the whole time. We don't want to miss anything, said Leo. Daniel took a deep breath and turned on his video camera and started walking in the direction of Maggie's cabins. After 5 minutes, they reached the foundation. So this is where Maggie once lived, said Leo. Let's start investigating the area. Okay, we can go either way, but meet here back in 5 minutes. Okay, we can do that, said Daniel. They went their separate ways and began filming as they investigated, calling out for Maggie to appear. But despite their eagerness, nervous, they found nothing at the foundation. Maybe you should go back to the stone marker and investigate that area. That sounds like a good idea, said, and since nothing happens here, said Daniel. They left the place and headed back to the stone marker. We'll meet here at midnight. Okay? I will go to the right place of the place, said Daniel. Sounds like a good idea. Once they split up again, they began to investigate the area for any traces of the ghost. Leo had no luck finding the ghost despite calling out for it. After a while, his watch started beeping and he looked. It's midnight and no sign of Maggie Miller's ghost, and Halloween is officially now over. He started walking back to the stone marker, but when he got there, Daniel wasn't there yet. He thought Daniel might be on his way back, so he chose to wait for a few minutes before choosing to go out and look for it. 5 minutes have passed and still Daniel hasn't come back. I'm gonna give him a couple more minutes. But then Leo waited another 5 minutes, but Daniel still hasn't showed up. And now he was getting worried about his friend started walking in the direction that Daniel was walking. While walking on the path, Leo wonders if Daniel might right that hit an animal, or if he had fallen and hurt his leg. He chose to call out to Daniel to call Daniel. He called Daniel's number, no answer. He may have lost consciousness and after an accident. Once again, Leo began to grow more worried about his friend. Daniel, where are you? Daniel, can you hear me? Leo shouted and shouted, but no answer back. He was getting scared now. He knows that Daniel mentioned wolves and bears were in the forest and wonders if they could have caught Daniel. Leo began searching the trail with his flashlight for any sign of Daniel. It felt like an eternity until Leo came across to a crossroad in the forest. Wondered which way to go now. Where could it go? Leo was about to walk a path until he saw something on another path on the ground. He walked over and saw it was Daniel's video camera. It was still intact and had stopped filming. Leo immediately began to looking around the forest with his flashlight for Daniel. Daniel, can you hear me? This is not fun anymore. Come forward. If you're trying to scare me, you succeeded. Come on now, Daniel. But despite that, it was quiet in the forest. Just the wind in the trees, but no signs of animals or Daniel. He looked around to see if Daniel may have hurt himself and lost consciousness, but nowhere to find could he find any sign. He figured that he would look at Daniel's video camera to see if the filming would happen to him. He stepped onto the camera and began to look through this recording. Maggie, if you can hear me, I mean no harm to you. I know what happened to you, and I'm really sorry that you were found guilty. I know you were an innocent woman. Leo continued to watch the recording as Daniel continued talking, trying to get Maggie to show herself until he got to the intersection where he found Leo's camera. Maggie, if you can hear me, can you show me yourself? But no answer. But then Daniel pointed the camera to the same path that Leo was standing on right now. In a distance, he could see a figure in white. At first he thinks it's just an illusion. Maggie Miller, is that you? I just want to come here and apologize for what happened to you. I just want to tell you, I know you were... Daniel stopped middle of the sentence, and the camera was directed towards the figure, which now was more clear, and it was a woman who held out her hand and movements for Daniel to come to her. At first, it was quiet. Daniel stood still, and Leo assumed it was fear until he heard a voice echo in the night. Come to me, Daniel. Come to me. Maggie? Is that you? Yes, my dear friend. I'm Maggie Miller. I've been waiting for you. I know you're honest, that you believe in me. I'm innocent. Daniel started walking towards the woman, and then he put the camera down on the ground, then slowly walked up to the woman, took her hand, and both turned around their backs and walked slowly in the forest, until they were off camera and the screen went black. Lee looked towards the place, but Daniel, when he knew that Daniel disappeared, started rushing towards the place, yelling for Daniel to come back. But when he got to the place, he found nothing. Daniel, where are you? Come here immediately. Leo repeated his calling out for his friend, despite yelling, screaming, tried to call Daniel again, but no answer. Now he immediately started to get scared and decided to rush back to the parking lot, call for help. He rushed all the way back to his car, got in, immediately called 911. After a while, the sheriff's car pulled up with his deputy sheriff. Leo explained that his best friend was missing and that a woman led him further into the forest. After that, the sheriff called for extra help. Soon, two more cars and a number of locals showed up to help to search for Daniel. Daniel's parents and Leo's parents also showed up. They demanded to tell them what happened, and he told them everything at the same way as he told the sheriff. He also showed them and the sheriff the woman on the camera. Everyone was now got worried and saw that Leo wasn't making anything up, despite all the search in the woods. Through the night, they found no footprints, no sign of Daniel anywhere in the forest. The search continued the next day in daylight, but despite daylight, the sheriff found no trace of Daniel, and after 2 days, the sheriff decided to call off the search. He informed Daniel's family they couldn't find their son. Although Leo understood that Daniel's parents would accuse him and he told them that they had every right to do so, but they choose not to do that because they saw on the recording on his camera that he really did everything he could and did the right thing to call for help and tell the truth. After a month of Daniel's disappearance, he was officially declared dead, but unofficially declared as a victim of Maggie Miller's ghost. And since then, Leo has believed the story and the legend of Maggie Miller's ghost to be true. He has since convinced others not to go to the forest in Halloween to search for the witch ghost. When they ask him why they shouldn't just do that, Leo answered with the same thing back. Because my best friend Daniel disappeared, and he was taken by the witch's ghost on Halloween 2022. Since then, Leo have visited Maggie Miller's stone marker and laid flowers for her and Daniel. I miss you, Daniel. You were my best friend, and I would have done anything for you for back. I believe 100% that Maggie Miller's ghost exists and that she is completely innocent. Rest in peace, Maggie Miller and Daniel. Leo looked at the marker before turning around and he cried and then went back home. Once again, the Evan Will's witch had taken a person, was never seen again. If you've ever gone to visit Evansville, Georgia, and if you were to visit the Phillips Forest, show Maggie Miller's ghost with honesty, respect, or you will become her next victim to disappear in the woods and never be seen again. The end.